Hello and welcome to HorsePlayers Happy Hour, July 18th edition. Peter Thomas Fornatale coming to you live from the Brigantine at Del Mar. We'll be here for the next hour and a half or so covering racing from Saratoga, though as of next week, we're going to have racing from Saratoga and Del Mar. Del Mar, of course, starting this Saturday. Very, very excited to be out here for the opening of the meet. Not sure where JK is. He's going to be joining us at some point as well. We're going to have an array of special guests, lots of coverage of the Haskell as well. Haskell Day, be getting into the weeds on that one. Lots of great stakes racing, including the Win and You're In Haskell Stakes, Win and You're In action for the Breeders' Cup Classic. But right away, we're going to go to a pre-tape. We'll get to the live racing eventually, but we're going to get to a pre-tape. I had the great pleasure of catching up with a man this morning without whom HorsePlayers Happy Hour would not exist. And producer Craig, we're going to throw to that right now.
Very happy to welcome back to HorsePlayers Happy Hour a man without whom this whole thing would not exist. These days, he has some work conflicts on Thursday afternoon, so we are pre-taping him, but need to get his face on these airwaves because as one viewer of these shows once said, if there's not Matt Bernier, it's not HorsePlayers Happy Hour. That viewer was me. Welcome back. Matt Bernier, how are things, buddy?
I'm hanging in there, Pete. Good to be back on here. It feels like it's been, well, it has been. It's been a really long time, a better part of 2 years now. So it's good. I hope everything's going well with you guys. I know you're out west. Looking forward to opening weekend at Del Mar and having a Saturday kickoff, which is a little bit different, but I think people are still excited nonetheless. And on top of that, Saturday, big racing on the East Coast with the Grade 1 Haskell.
We've talked about the Haskell a bunch on these airwaves on this very show, but did want to bring you in for your thought. First of all, I want to hear what you're doing work-wise, because I know we have some NBC coverage. That's always special when we get you guys involved in the horse racing, milieu. So what are you going to be doing down there? Where can people watch? And then let's hear what you think of the race.
5 to 6 Eastern. We only have the United Nations in the Haskell, but NBC, big NBC. I think you can also watch on Peacock, but NBC is where we will be. Brittany, Randy, Jerry at the desk, and Michelle Yu will be roaming, talking to some folks, and hopefully picking a couple of winners. But the race itself, it begins with fierceness. It doesn't sound like he's going to go, barring like a last-second change of heart. You take him out. I know there was some conjecture about would Dornoch go or wouldn't he go because of the rail. I can't imagine them not going here. If he wins this race, he's the leader of the division, and he may actually be the leader of the Classic division. So I have to think they have to go. You get the rematch with Mindframe. I think objectively you can say Mindframe was probably the better of the two in the Belmont, and inexperience cost him a little bit. I don't think it's fair, the folks that are pinning it on Irad. I mean, yeah, he went left-handed, but what do you want him to do? He's in deep stretch trying to win the race. Yeah. Horse just reacted. I don't know. I mean, I think Mindframe is the likeliest winner. I keep getting drawn back to Tuscan Sky, and I know the last trip was ideal for him, but the form of the race has held up pretty darn well. Domestic Product came right back with a big Dwyer. The second place finisher was Hades, who was a country mile behind him. Am I brave enough to pick him? Yeah, probably. Because I'm having a gamble in here, but because I think he's also going to get dismissed. I think people are going to look at it and say, he's just kind of an afterthought. And if he runs back to the Pegasus, I think he's got as good a chance as anyone.
No guts, no glory, my friend. And you don't want to just be with me and JK saying that Mindframe's going to win. It's boring opinion. I mean, it is my opinion. I think it is likely a correct opinion. I do think that upside that he has, the way that I saw that race, he was going to go by had he only behaved. And I'll just second your emotion that blaming the jockey seems silly there. I mean, he's trying to win the race. The horse is inexperienced, told. That was something that people said going into the race was a reason maybe not to get too focused on him. Hey, it didn't work out that day for Mindframe. All the upside in the world. But, I mean, Tuscan Sky, I think, is going to be a little bit under the radar compared to all the money I see Mindframe taking, all the money I would imagine Dornoch's going to take off that Belmont Stakes win. So I'm hearing what you're saying with that. Have you done the UN yet? We can talk about that real quick. I thought that was a scramble.
Absolute scramble, to the point where I don't really like the horses coming out of the Monmouth where you had 15 horses across the wire. So I'm going to kind of toss the form of that race. I guess it depends what you think of Emmanuel. Maybe this is your opportunity to get a decent number on him. I'm not convinced that he wants to go this far. I think there's a reason they've kept at those middle distances for as long as they have. Get Smoking appeals a little bit to me as possibly just one of those that folks are going to completely dismiss and say, well, when he won that race at Kentucky Downs, it was Kentucky Downs and he got away with a slow pace. I think the other Cassie is the one most people are going to look at, and Web Slinger. I think he's the likeliest winner of this race. Can I get your opinion on Dataman? Because
my top pick.
Okay. So I don't love the way that he finished in the cliffhanger purely mechanically. He got on right lead and then immediately went back to the left and stayed there. So that's a little bit of a worry for me, but he's paired it by tops in the last two. There was no race. He was the only one that made up any ground in that cliffhanger. And then I know some folk roll their eyes when they hear Gallop Out brought up, but that was at a mile and a 16th versus this distance at a mile and 3/8. He galloped out like a freight train.
Yeah.
So
I'm a Gallop Out guy. And there's
if you could tell me 10, if you could tell me the 10's going to happen, I'm going to rush to bet Dataman.
I'm hoping it's going to. I'm hoping the horse is going to run well. I mean, the distance is a question mark, but I mean, you make the Gallop Out point. Also, just diving into the female side of this pedigree, not the ones that have run here, but the ones that have run overseas. You know, there's chase horses in the damn side of this pedigree. I think the horse is not going to have a problem. And at the end of the day, in Grand Motion, I trust. I'm just hoping the horse is a big price, doesn't become too wise guy-y. But I think you're centering around the right ideas, and we definitely have a similar idea in trying to bet against the 8 that finished on the wire in the local.
I think my thought from a gambling standpoint will be keying Dataman first and second, and then using the Cassie horses in the opposite spots and just boil it down to those 3 horses. And if somebody else beats me, somebody else beats me. But I think Get Smokin's going to get a little bit lost in the shuffle. I'm hopeful that Dataman gets a little bit lost, and I'd be surprised if Web Slinger didn't go off as the favorite in this spot. But I think he deserves to be based on what he's done so far and who he's kept his company against.
I respect him. One other I'll just throw out there who I had on my short list who we haven't talked about yet in the race is Starting Over, who requires a little bit of imagination. But I mean, we've seen this movie before when it comes to Mike Maker and the way he's changed these horses' form by stretching them out. He may be a Gulfstream horse for course, but he's not going to catch money from that 11 post. And just at a big price as one to feather in through your exotics, I figure I'll throw him out there as well.
He's won over the Monmouth Turf in the past, and I feel like Mike Maker has won this race even with horses that on paper I was like, don't really love him, and they still go out there and get the job done. This is what he does, and this is a race that I feel like more often than not, kind of goofy things can happen. And you know what? With the local prep being just something I have no interest in whatsoever, I could certainly see the case for Starting Over. And, who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong about that Monmouth Stakes, and that's what will produce the winner. But not for me, given the finish of it.
Another guest I'm surprised we haven't yet had on our BCBC Diary show joins us now in the form of Matt Bernier. He was so essential to the formation of our HorsePlayers Happy Hour, and some of my fondest memories of hanging at the racetrack were with him in his very early days at the old place with the letters DRF, when he made a deep run in the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge back in. I'll let you say it. I don't exactly remember, but I think it was the early days of a little show called the then DRF Players Podcast. I speak, of course, of Matt Bernier. Matt wanted to bring you on BCBC Diaries to check in with you. How are things going? How's life at FanDuel, TVG, and NBC?
Pete, I'll tell you, it was 10 years ago, this Breeders' Cup, that run was made, 2014. It's been a long time. But look, everything's good work-wise. Oddly enough, 10 years ago, we were out at Santa Anita. This year, it'll be at Del Mar, and this will be the first Breeders' Cup that I missed since 2013 because I've got another kid on the way. So my schedule is going to just break up a little bit for good reasons. But yeah, look, just because I can't play in the BCBC anymore doesn't mean I don't pay attention to it. And I think the past 2 or 3 years, you can comment on this as well as anyone, it has turned into, I think, something totally different than when I made a run or two in those years in the past, just because, man, I think the folks playing are just so sharp and focused on the game plan is the game plan. Very few times you hear people calling audibles. It's very much we're going in and it's A, B, and C. And if all those three things happen, we either win or we're right there. And it's just a complete, I feel like a 180 from what we probably saw 10, 15 years ago with some of the runs that people made.
It's been an evolution for sure, and a bit of an arms race in terms of how much money are you willing to shove at the end. Of course, Sean Borman, last year's winner, made that brilliant play, only taking a small piece of his bankroll and still getting to that kind of top number. But yeah, if you want to win the whole thing, it's not impossible to do without risking it all, but it definitely helps, and it certainly has changed. And yeah, that means the podcast that we started that has grown into this media network, that means that's 10 years old as well. That's pretty crazy. That went quick. And I love the news. Very excited about the family news of you. And now you'll have a Breeders' Cup baby to go along with the Derby baby. That was either fantastic or terrible planning. I'm leaning towards fantastic.
Our timing is impeccable. If nothing else, it's ironic, and life gets in the way. You can't control these things, and no, we're looking forward to it. And I will say, looking back on it and thinking back to some of the Breeders' Cup, the BCBC runs, I sent him a note a couple weeks ago, and I feel bad that I haven't picked up more of Matt Miller's book, but I feel like the way that Matt has laid out, I'm about halfway through the book, just the logic that he has laid out, I feel like would have done me a great deal of good to think that way, at least on two occasions. Never mind the actual good run I made, but two other occasions where I had two opinions, and I did not maximize them. I didn't come close to maximizing them. Had I kind of taken more of Matt's philosophy and, a plug to the book, Bettor Way of Thinking, that you were involved with as well, if I had used those trains of thought, I'm not telling you I'm winning either of those, but I'm at least in with a puncher's chance, because they were both instances where I would have had giant bankrolls with one 2 days ahead of me and the other half of Saturday still ahead of me. So, in hindsight, I wish I had some of this thought process or this logic years ago.
People can check the book out at betterwayofThinking.com. Matt, first-time guest on BCBC Diaries. I'll get the same question to close things out. Give me a Breeders' Cup memory. It can be from your big run. It can be from whenever. But I want the excuse to roll some tape and talk about some terrific Breeders' Cup moments here.
Well, let's go with the big one. The reason that I got into the position I did 10 years ago was the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Texas Red goes off and wins at a big number. We have the win bet. We have the exacta, the trifecta. In the form, when I was writing for the form, giving out picks, cold superfecta. And if my mind isn't completely shot, it was Texas Red over Carpe Diem over Upstart over the Great War, I believe, was the cold superfecta. Aidan O'Brien rounding things out. It sprung me into a position where I could then actually start playing, and then hit a win bet on work all week in the sprint. And then I got a little bit conservative, but you also have to factor in, I wasn't playing for myself. I was playing for charity. So the last thing I wanted to do was be the big boob out there and blow, $40,000 that very easily can be donated. And I decided at the very end, we're going to play with 5,000 in the classic, largely around Candy Boy. It didn't work out, ended with like 35,000 and then finished sixth, got another 35 or 40 on top of that. And we donated that all to Thoroughbred Aftercare. So it was a great event, fond memories. Not that this is going into that, but briefly, Stephanie's Kitten should have been, again, with Matt Miller's logic, that should have been an absolute smash spot. And instead, I just kind of treaded water, which was very dumb. And then the last BCBC I got to play in. And I'm only saying these things for other people to hopefully not repeat my mistakes. The last BCBC that I was eligible to play in before I started working for FanDuel was at Keeneland. It must have been 2 years ago, 2 years ago, whenever it was. Flightlines Breeders' Cup. And on Friday, there was a horse that I was convinced the figures were not accurate on. And his name was Next. And he ran in the marathon race that day. And he had only gone a marathon on dirt one other time at Delaware Park. And he ran a giant number. And I looked at the form of that race, and everybody coming out of that jumped up, and he beat him by a country mile. So I went to Randy Moss, who works with the Buyer Associates, and I said, can you look at this number? Because I'm planning on betting this horse in the contest. He comes back, he goes, you're right, it's too low, but I don't know how low is too low, because again, just purely on the clock, the number looked right, but when you see the form that everyone else has then subsequently showcased, He goes, it might be a little bit low. Sure enough, he goes off and waltzes on the front end. I think he was 5-1. And I should have just dumped the whole bankroll there. And instead, I just kind of got cute. I think I only made like $3,000 on the race, $4,000 on the race. And that was it. I didn't do a damn thing the rest of the way with the exception of the turf. And I was well beaten at that point. So in hindsight, when you've got a spot where you think you've got an edge, lean into Matt Miller's train of thought. Dump it. If you're right, you're setting yourself up for success. If you're wrong, you at least went out with your strongest opinion. And I feel like I tried to champion that, but I didn't heed my own advice.
It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, which is one of the reasons why Matt's so generous in talking about it. But I'm glad you're underlining it here with some real world examples. Since Next came up, should he be in the betting for the Breeders' Cup Classic? Is this a horse you think would have a chance? Doesn't sound like connections want to go that way, but gosh, looking at it from the outside looking in, it's hard to imagine why not. He'd fit. What do you think about him moving forward? What his long-term target might be?
I was at the Pennsylvania Derby last year when it was a deluge. I think Parks was the only place running, and he ran a hole in the wind again, like he always does. And I was in there, and Dan Illman, our former colleague at the Racing Form, he and I were in the auxiliary little press box, and I said, you got to try him against tougher, don't you? You got to see whether it's the Jockey Club or Jockey Club would have already happened. But point being, you got to find out. And he agreed, and the connections, I think it's admirable that they have kind of just stuck to this path where they think this is what his game is. But at the same time, I look at the classic division as a whole. The 3-year-olds, we'll see what happens in the Haskell. The older horses, throw them up. They're going to fall a million different ways. He's the only consistent older horse that there is right now. It would kill me if I had a piece of a horse like this and I didn't at least find out. Because for all I know, he can handle it, and he's still winning like this, going 1.25 miles, and in which case you're the favorite for the Breeders' Cup Classic. So I would love to see it. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen. And if we continue to get these sort of sideways results, or not sideways, but everyone taking turns winning the big ones, I would say, man, I would have a hard time sleeping at night.
That's great. Connections certainly know the horse better than we do. I mean, I respect that. But just from a fan, we're just being fans here too and saying, hey, how amazing would that be to see? We'll see how it plays out. Matt, wonderful having you. We'll bother you again soon because no good deed goes unpunished around here.
Hey, man, anytime, anywhere, any place.
You're muted,
Pete. Quick location change, and we have a new man there joining us from, I can't tell where he is. Let's bring him in and find out. JK, what's going on, my brother?
I'm in the 1863. There's
very nice.
And there's Austin, and there's Nancy.
Oh, we got the whole family. That's fantastic.
And right over there, where is that? Right over there is Marshall Graham somewhere.
Yeah, I heard he was somehow managed to get in there without being shot on sight. I was impressed, but how fun was that getting to catch up with Matt Bernier for a few minutes? Always a pleasure talking to him. What's been going on with you today? You've been making any money?
Yeah, I've been on air, just hanging out. Was on early with Rajiv. That was fun. He tried to surprise me and wear a shirt that looked just like mine, which was wild.
Who wore it better? Be honest. Who wore it better?
No, I got him. He's a rookie to this game. He's a rookie, but it was fun. No, it's been good. We've just been hanging out, and we're hanging out in the Founders Club, the second floor of the 1863, and I had to put pants on, but it's working.
That probably wasn't easy for them to get you to do. I assume you didn't wear them at work and you just put them on post shift. Am I correct in guessing that?
I would have done that if it wasn't for the weather actually cooling down, like I told you. I wore them today, which is not something I would normally do, but I did. I wore them today.
The old switch over here. Craig's on it. I was going to deal with that myself, but he got it all sorted out. So I'm now back on some hardwired internet here. HorsePlayers Happy Hour. That's what we are here to do. This is an interconnected weekly series of contests where you have 3 ways to win a Breeders' Cup seat. One you might call the traditional route. You play in this feeder on these Thursdays, $20, and you can win by finishing in the top 10%, $179 entry into the Saturday contest. But throughout the season other ways to win. You have the opportunity, if you accrue the best, we take your best 8 scores. So you could be starting today really at almost no disadvantage and accrue 8 great scores. And the top finisher is going to win a BCBC seat. And then by finishing either in the top 2 any week or having one of the top tour scores overall, participate in an 80-player contest where we'll award a 3rd Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge seat. Now, what is that you're drinking? I'm glad to see you, JK, taking this Horseplayer Happy Hour thing seriously. But is that an espresso martini at the racetrack?
Well, my wife and my mother-in-law forced me to try this Oreo cookies and cream espresso martini. So because I like Oreo, so I'm trying it.
I'm sure there was a lot of arm twisting going on in that one. This is a man who,
when these two ladies tell me to do anything, I just shut up and do it.
Well, I mean, that's wise. I would feel the same. But I mean, this is a man who claims he's going out for coffee and comes back with a milkshake. So the idea.
I've grown up from that now. I do better than that now. I'll do a cold brew with a splash, like literally a splash of milk. I'm not as embarrassing as I once was with my coffee order.
All right. Well, that's good. That's good to hear. Let's take a look. I mentioned about the 3 ways to win on HorsePlayers Happy Hour. Would love to take a look at whichever leaderboard you want to pop up there, Craig. Whatever you have at the ready. We can look at the overall tour, or we can look at what's going on today. I'm super curious how many we got in today's contest, too. So we'll get there eventually. But, Craig, go ahead and pop up a leaderboard, and I'll roll through it. And this looks like the overall standings, because we see our man Michael Domable, who was kind enough to join us last week in first with 220. Michael Saletta, who's been great. He's been in touch a bunch in the comments and on social media, 180. Anthony Spinazzola, who's one of our loyal players, there in third in a tie with John Massin with 160. Malcolm Esquer, who we were communicating with on Twitter this week, lots of very smart and good questions. He's hooked on the tour, as he should be with that fine 150-point score, currently in fourth. We'll do the top 10. Julie LeBoyko, Trish Smith, who's frequently here with us in the comments, had that big price winner. Trish might have had a record-setting score in last week's game. Sean O'Malley in the money's own. James Millar, Steve Nemitz, Justin Christein, who rumor has it might be joining us today. Chris Couples, frequently in the comments, always sharp. Wayne Tam, Mark Elliott, Christopher Andrews. I don't think that's the sports betting Chris Andrews. This is our own horse racing Chris Andrews, who does a great job. Andrew Uretsky, Mark Wilgard, and Paul Weiser. Great to see that tournament veteran playing in these games. And it makes sense because Paul is known as somebody who does an amazing job in these qualifiers and doesn't needlessly spend money. Very efficient player, so it makes sense. This concept with its $20,000 added to the pot would be appealing to him. Great to see all of you there. I saw Jackson Muniz' name there as well, one of our BCBC Diaries players. Here we are, 165 today, a little down from last week. JK, I don't think that ad ran on Naira. I'm just going to say it here on the airwaves. I don't think that ad ran. If it did, we didn't get a lot of benefit out of it between us. But don't tell anybody I said that. 165 players, still not bad. We've got 2 races left to go. Todd Van Dree, one of our regulars, in first place. Jason Batts, Stephen McNatton, Keith Van Lanen, William Smith, Jim Herron, Brad Anderson, former BCBC champion there. Greg Kingma, who I just saw over at the Brigantine. You might have even seen him in that opening shot when I came on the air. Stephen McNatton, Scott McGovern. We'll go to do the top 16 since we got the 160. Togo Travaglia, who's always in touch. Pete Dressens, former Rookie of the Year. Good to see his name on there. Julie LeBoyko doing so well on the tour. Looking to better that today. Michael Bailey, Chris Couples again, and Frank Dukoski. Excellent stuff. All right. How many minutes do we have till the next race at Saratoga, Jonathan?
Right, like across
21 minutes.
21 minutes. I think that gives us time to run a pre-tape. Why don't we?
Well, before you do that, people are playing the late double.
Oh, yeah, you got something?
Yeah, Marshall told me not to tell you yet, but he loves his horse in the last.
All right, don't tell anyone watching. Don't tell anybody else. We're going to leave the circle closed here. But Marshall loves his horse in the last. So who is this horse, and does it make sense on paper? I will bet friends tips blindly, but I do always like to vet them.
Well, I always tell, like I told someone the other day. I just told I told my wife, my wife, and my ex-wife just now. My wife and my ex-wife, my wife and my mother-in-law just now. I said that Marshall is a owner that likes his horses sometimes, but he's a horse player, so he doesn't trick you into he doesn't, there's a lot of owners that he'll tell you no, stay away. But no, he said he liked the horse. So
anytime we're talking Saratoga and owner tips, JK, you know where my brain goes. One of my favorite stories ever. Gosh, 6, 7, 8, who knows, years ago now. We're hanging out with Jake Ballas. We're probably in the curling room. We had designed a pick six. Like, the ticket was in. And he asked us who we liked, and we went over it. And we had included his horse, Cordero, in the last. He physically made us go back and take his horse off the ticket. Such was his lack of confidence in the beast. Everybody listening probably knows who won the nightcap at Saratoga that night. Jake more than made up for it. It was a lovely dinner at Boca that night. It was wonderful to see him and Cordero in the winner's circle. But it does go to the fact that, and Jake is actually very good when it comes to reading the form, but it can be very hard to interpret this stuff, and a lot of random stuff happens. It is horse racing, but Marshall's certainly a good judge. You remember the night in question I'm talking about?
I remember the Boca. I don't remember the horse, but I don't remember the. I don't remember the horse.
It was Cordero.
Oh, because he didn't own the horse anymore, did he?
I thought he was still involved.
Maybe you're right. Yes, I mean I remember Cordero. Yes. I just couldn't remember if he owned the horse at that point still, because the horse had got claimed. I can't remember.
I think it was after. I think he owned, because he was very generous and apologetic. And if the horse was no longer his, I don't think we would have been so quick to go back and change those tickets. Anyway, we'll talk more about this late double. Let's take 8 minutes or whatever it is now and go flash back to this morning when JK and I spoke about the Haskell Stakes. PTF and JK back with you. Win and you're in action for the Breeders' Cup on the Jersey Shore. We've got the Grade 1 Haskell this Saturday. Some crossover with horses you'll know from the Triple Crown going to be participating here, and it's an exciting race. JK, let's go through these contenders, and then at the end, we'll give our selections, our ideas of who's going to win this year's running of the Haskell Stakes. Let's start with the Belmont Stakes winner, Dornick. What do you think of his chances?
Look, I mean, he's really kind of turned into a darn good horse, right? He fooled me a little bit throughout his 3-year-old campaign, but the way he ran in the Belmont, I think he deserves to definitely be in the conversation in this Haskell.
In the conversation, yes. I'm a little skeptical just because I feel like if they made a different tactical decision about Seize the Gray, if Mindframe had run straight in the stretch, felt like everything went his way a little bit. Maybe last time was the time you wanted to have, but not a horse I'm going to argue with, and great to see his participation in this race on the Jersey Shore. Maybe he'll kick sand in my face again. Jasper's Pride, local horse, big long shot. We won't pause there. But Tuscan Sky, certainly worthy of consideration after winning the local prep, the Monmouth Stakes at Monmouth, the Pegasus Stakes at Monmouth, Naira Betts Pegasus Stakes. Is he a serious contender in here? Can Tuscan Sky step up?
Absolutely. That's what's great about the Haskell, the Jim Dandy, and the Travers is you get to these horses that are kind of late to the party. Tuscan Sky ran well early in his career, failed as a short price horse in the Wood Memorial, but now seems to kind of be getting it all together. I think he definitely fits as one who has a nice race over the racetrack as well.
Let's continue on down the field with Timberlake. I'll probably steal your thunder, or you'll steal mine with this one. This is a horse we both talked about as one that was probably in need of a turn back in distance. They're keeping him long. This is a track historically where horses can stretch their speed. It's played a lot more fair this year. I'm watching one with Timberlake, but this is a horse you've always been a bigger fan of than me. Do you like him in this spot?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a huge fan, and I've always felt like he's got a great race somewhere in him. I wish it would have been the Breeders' Cup betting challenge when I bet like $15,000 on him. But yeah, I mean, look, he's got an opportunity to turn things around. I think that he's one that's always been ultra talented. I wouldn't be shocked if he was getting his picture taken at the end. I just think he's got some other pretty talented horses he's going to have to deal with.
You're a man with his finger on the pulse of what's going on in the racing industry, these conversations with insiders you have. There's a rumor that several horsemen have you blocked on their cell phones from all the times you call them fishing for information. That's not true. I just made that up right now. What are you hearing? Are you hearing what I'm hearing about fierceness, that he may opt to skip this spot and run in the Jim Dandy next weekend instead? On the press conference yesterday, Todd Pletcher said it's all up to owner Mike Rapoli. Will fierceness compete here? And if he does, do you like him?
I haven't heard, but knowing Mike Rapoli and knowing common sense, you would think that if he's going to have a short price horse in Mindframe, and Mindframe ships down and is ready to jump into the starting gate, feels like fierceness will probably stay back and run in the Jim Dandy. Why have one win and one loss when you can have potentially two wins? So I would think that fierceness will bypass the Jim Dandy as long as Mindframe is all good to go. And it just seems like a little bit of an insurance policy to make sure he's got a runner in the Grade 1 Haskell.
Just step on it. Big, long shot, local horse. C-Streak of the local horses, maybe the one that could be the most interesting if ridden cold, and maybe to make one run in, potentially a sneaky exacta horse. I can't see winning. Before we get to Mindframe, do you have anything to say about either of these other local contenders? I
think C-Streak is basically just the best option for getting to the Jersey Shore if you're in Manhattan.
It is a wonderful ferry ride. He's in a little deep, but he's a tough horse who I've always liked. I wouldn't be surprised if he can outrun his odds a little bit. Let's get to our ad. We've got a new sponsor in the Money Media Network, and we're very excited to be working with Winner's Circle Proxy. If you want to learn more, winnerscircleproxy.com/ITM. What is it? It is a way you can join the world's biggest football contest, that's NFL football, at Circa Sports, with $16 million in guaranteed cash prizes this season. 2 ways to play: a no rake, Circa Survivor, and Circa Million, where you play against the spread. You can enter at Circa Sports in Las Vegas with Winner's Circle Proxy service. Then you can play online from anywhere. Winner's Circle Proxy clients win big: $7 million in 2023, over $15 million the last 5 years. Learn more about this most trusted proxy service by visiting winnerscircleproxy.com/ITM. Schedule your sign-up appointment today and make sure you tell them that your friends from In the Money Media sent you. Pretty cool. Very excited about these upcoming contests and the chance to work with these cats. Hearing more about them on these airwaves, both on YouTube, over at the podcast side as well, inthemoneypodcast.com, In the Money Media, wherever you get your podcasts. Quick call to the audience. Do us a favor, drop us a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win the Haskell Stakes on this Saturday. And further favor, sign up for our YouTube channel. Subscribe, I should say. Click that notification bell. Lots of YouTube exclusive content. We don't want you to miss any of it. And we are right on the doorstep of 10,000 subs. It's going up every day. Join the party. Help us out. I want that little creative award. All right. There's one horse we haven't talked about, and we haven't given our picks yet, JK. I think we can both do it in one. We're talking about Mindframe. Let's hear the case for this Todd Pletcher runner.
I think it's safe to say he was unlucky to win, not to win, the Belmont Stakes. I mean, I think Irad just kind of caught him off guard left-handed. He's not a horse that's been very experienced, and I think that he just got caught off guard. He ducked out a little bit, and I think ultimately at the end that cost him. If he would have gone straight, I think he would have won. But the other thing about Mindframe is that not only do I think that his performance was very close to being a Belmont Grade 1 winning performance, he was only his third start. He's supposed to take another step forward, and if he takes that step forward, I think he could be extremely tough to beat. Todd Pletcher knows how to win this race. I think Mindframe might be the leader that's not quite in the clubhouse yet to win 3-year-old championship.
I don't disagree. It's a bold statement given his resume versus some of these others, but I just think he might be the most talented. And I agree with what you're saying about that run in the Belmont. I mean, from where I was sitting, you can really see the momentum. I was right at the top of the stretch. He stays straight. He goes right by. There's almost no question in my mind. It's like a 9 of 10 type of a thing. And with that potential and the ability for him to have grown up even just in the last month, they've been working on things in training. Todd Pletcher's a master. I like Mindframe in this spot, and I like his chance to potentially go on and be the 3-year-old champion as well. There you have it. That's our analysis of this year's Haskell Stakes. For JK, I'm PTF. May you win all your photos. Probably could have edited out the little early for the May you win all your photos, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Jumping the gun. That was obviously a video we're going to pop up on YouTube aimed at our sort of, not the hardcores who join us here. A little bit more of the general horse racing audience. But hey, we'll keep the conversation going about the Haskell. If anybody in the comments wants to tell us who they like in there. It's going to be fun. I mean, it's a crazy weekend of racing between everything going on. Great racing up at Woodbine with the plate trial and the Oaks, obviously out here in San Diego, opening day. It's going to be fun. Do you think, JK, it's a sign that I've spent too much time in England recently that I felt the need reflexively to say that when football came up in the ad that I felt the need to say NFL football? I was a little embarrassed watching that.
Yeah, that was wild. That was very British of you.
But anyway, in case anyone was confused, we do have people watching from overseas, but that's going to be fun. We're going to be talking more about that on recent shows. We've got, I forgot. We had talked about doing our stakes analysis for Woodbine in the context of this show. Do we want a production meeting in the middle of the show? Do we want to stick with that, or is that something we want to do in the morning tomorrow?
That is definitely a morning tomorrow vibe. I think it's loud in here.
Yep.
It's like that. It'll be hard to pull off.
I think that's wise. That was my gut too. But if you were stuck tomorrow morning and we had to power through, it wouldn't be the first time we did something suboptimal on the In the Money airwaves for the sake of getting the work done. Not that that happens often, but it might have. But no, that's good. We'll regroup about that. We'll talk about those other races, including the UN. Got to hear Matt and my very early thoughts on that one. Let's talk about this race at Saratoga. What do we? And it looks like you've switched drinks. What do you got going there? A little Aperol spritz, or what do we got?
I've been on this. No, I just had to take a sip of the other thing. Yeah, Aperol spritz. Jovanina's having a margarita, I think, and Austin. Oh, tequila soda. I'm sorry. Austin's having a Saratoga spring water.
I was going to guess Shirley Temple, but Saratoga spring water.
He's weird. He only does one Shirley Temple a day.
That's smart, actually. You got to watch that sugar content, even at his age. He's going to be a lot healthier than we are, is what that means. So we're taking a look now at the, you go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to answer your I so desperately wanted something cute and creative here. And I just, there's just too many horses that got me excited, like too much fun stuff going on that I struggled to like really land on anything here. Proctor Street, obviously a daughter of Proctor's Ledge. Proctor's Ledge was, for those tournament folks listening, Proctor's Ledge was the Gulfstream Park first or second time starter during the contest in Vegas with the letters maybe like 6 years ago won it like 20-something to 1. And it
20 to
like
1 on the board, 3 to 1 in the room. It was one of those.
Yeah, everybody had it. And Jack Jenkins was one of them. Proctor Street is in here, a daughter of Proctor's Ledge. So I thought that was cool. And so I wanted to obviously kind of go there. Wrigleyville for our friends at Glen Hill Farm, who won very impressively second time long at Monmouth, who was a nice price on the board that I thought was interesting. Mixologist, the 9, looks tough in here. Grayosh, the 5. I picked this horse in the Wonder again. So, I like the horse in this allowance race. And then Camera, who, a funny story. I'll tell this story. I like to tell stories on HorsePlayer Happy Hour.
We love it.
And this is a good story. So we're sitting in last summer. It's before the meet starts. Myself, John Panagot, who's Manny Franco and Florent Giroux's agent, and also the racing manager for Madicat Stables. So all the Saul Cummins horses. And we're sitting in Chad. Yeah, we're sitting in Chad Brown's office before the meet starts, just sitting around talking noise or whatever. And JP says, there's this horse Todd likes, they like a lot, called Camera. They say this Camera is supposed to be like an absolute runner. And so Chad says, well, what race is she supposed to run in or whatever? And Chad said, the one on the, whatever, the third one of the book, Trainer Talk, the second one of the book or whatever it was, for the maiden fillies. And Chad, that was the moment in which Chad said, well, she better be a runner because I might have one of the best dirt horses I've ever trained in that spot. And we were like, who? He's like, this practical joke filly that I have called Ways and Means. And so, him and JP are like kind of going back, and it was funny, back and forth. And we go outside, and his exercise rider is there. And he asks his exercise rider, he says, they say this Todd Pletcher's got one called Camera that's really fast. They say that you're going to run against Ways and Means. And the exercise rider goes, they better take a picture of her in the gate because that's the last time they'll see her. Now they didn't run together.
It didn't play out that way.
It didn't play out that way, but
it would have.
It would have, yeah. So the reason I say that story is that Camera obviously has a lot of talent. She's clearly a talented horse, and she ran extremely well last time, getting on the grass for the first time. And I think a lot of times with these young horses, they might trick you a little bit to what surface they want. They'll let you know they have talent, and I think that she probably just wanted to get to the grass. And so basically what I'm trying to tell you is there's so many horses in here that I thought were interesting. Grayosh is probably the 5 that I would ultimately land on. I think Cameron is interesting, kind of a bad draw with that style. Look, it's a fun race, but yeah, I will, for the sake of the show, I will go Grayosh, but I think Wrigleyville is also a nice price as well. But yeah, I'll go Grayosh.
There's so many things, so many threads to pick up on. The first one I want to do is, first of all, that was as good of a story I've heard of, like just an illustration of what it's like to be up in Saratoga and hearing, horsemen talk about things. It's you hear that conversation with different names for the horses gets repeated over and over and over. And for those that think that these maiden races are some sort of insider's game and you need to hear that information, you knew the barn loved the horse when Camera, for that debut race that eventually came on July 23rd, was 3-5 on the board. You don't need somebody telling you in the bar that they think this is the fastest filly that ever lived. You see it right there in the data when she's 3-5. And what did that inside information do for you? Well, she was 9th beaten 22nd. And, it just, my point is, not that information, I love that info. I always love to file it away, honestly, for reasons very much like what Jonathan's saying today. Then you follow that horse, they always like, you see her get on the turf, you see her improve her figure, lifetime best figure on time form by something on the order of 17 points. As I say so often, these are horses who sometimes just continue to improve. I think she's really interesting in this spot. But again, back to that idea of inside info, it's great to have. I put it in my notes. It can be useful, but it's more often useful like later than it is on the day that you hear it. Would you agree, JK?
It's a live by the info, die by the info. We have a celebrity sighting here. No, you got to come. It's a Breeders' Cup thing, so they know you. I found Bob Edwards of E5 Racing.
Oh, fantastic! What's up, Bob?
Yeah,
how are you?
See, hold
on, he popped it on mute. Oh, we somehow froze, JK. It was a nice still we had of you. You're on mute there, JK.
Are we good now?
Yeah, we're good now. You had tons of success. I know the Breeders' Cup, an event that means a lot to you. Bob, how are you doing today in the 1863 Club?
I just rolled in here. I was in the hood in the normal boxes and, came in third in the maiden today, which was, fantastic. Just, got a good run, got a prospect. And as you said, I love the Breeders' Cup and love to get back.
Love it. So we were just talking about the value of knowing people in the game and inside information, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have a horse at this meet you can give the people to keep an eye on? Maybe it's the one that just ran, coming back to run again. Maybe it's something else. Anything we should have our eye on in particular?
I love Carl Spackler. But, as a race horse owner, they have two thoughts: homicide and suicide, right? So you hope that, you have horses stay on the track and run and do their best. And as the 2-year-olds are coming up, we want the best for them. I do like the horse Brindy who ran today in the 5.5 on the turf. I think she's something special. I think the next race out, I think she's sitting on a win. So we'll see what happens. And I have a lot of 2-year-olds coming through and hope for the best.
So you've had so much success with Carl Spackler. What a cool horse. What a great story. is this going to become like a thing? Are you going to name horses after the rest of the characters in Caddyshack? Can we look forward to a Tony D'Annunzio, a Lacey Underall, a Judge Smalls? What's the story as far as these Caddyshack
I'm open.
names?
So our friends at Coolmore had bought Carl Spackler's full sister, and they have specific nomenclature, and I'm hoping that they get the Lacey Underall. But I do have a Fawn Leibowitz in my stable. Just so you know, there is a Fawn Leibowitz in the stable, and I'm not sure where she's going to end up, but she's running.
That's great. Best of that style of comedy. We're talking. We're going back a little bit. We're looking at that era. We're talking Caddyshack, Animal House. Is there another film that you think ranks with Caddyshack, or does it stand alone?
I think at this point, I can't do better than Carl Spackler. Right? That's a tough ask. It's an Irish bred turf horse. It's a colt. We've had really good luck with him, and it's kind of he's a Cinderella story no more. I think Pietro said that after he broke his maiden. So, I'm hoping for the best for him and let him keep going forward.
Great stuff. You're looking great, Bob. Appreciate you popping on. You never know who's going to show up on HorsePlayers Happy Hour.
I didn't know that happened.
I have a subdued shirt too. I didn't want to have a conflict. I do have a Hawaiian shirt on. It's not the same class as you guys. Good to see you.
Good stuff. Oh, that was so fun. Thanks for producing on the fly there, JK. Very, very fun stuff. But you were saying before about live by the info, die by the info. I hear that logic, but you know what I'm saying? This idea that maiden races are somehow a benefit that you have to be on the inside to do well in, I just think it's a fallacy, personally.
Well, I mean, I think you want to know. I'd rather know than not know. I want to know if someone thinks that one can run. Funny enough, story last weekend. This is when info it hits you right between the eye. Somebody told me. I'm not trying to it's not important. He told me, but someone said D. Wayne Lucas said you can bet the house on his horse. I'm like, okay, all right, coach, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And then Mike Maloney, a horse player legend on the Mount Rushmore of horse players, unsolicited, text me, hey, I really like the 9, the Lucas horse, and the blah 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 blah. So I took info and intelligence, put them together, and lost a nasty photo.
Oh, that horse ran so huge. Another just weird story. So Susan was watching that race on TV, just watching your broadcast, and texted me before the race. I'm watching America's Day at the races, checking out JK. He's got an awesome shirt. By the way, I love the 9 here. We all took a sick beat on that photo. We're about to go off here, so we're going to send this one to the call. We'll come back. We got to dig up the name of that horse for people. But yeah, let's send it to Frank with the call here.
Very restless there is Dancing Dean. And they're off. Destiny Star out alertly. Here comes Camera on the far outside and Take Me to the Beach. Those two move right together. And Expatriate is up and on the pace too. Just in behind them comes Mixologist. Mixologist is only 3 or 4 lengths off the lead, coming right in now to save some ground around that first turn. Then comes Wrigleyville. Wrigleyville is in mid-pack, has 6 lengths to make up. It's another couple of lengths back to Grayosh, who's on the outside of Proctor Street. The 2 trailers are Centuria and Dancing Dean at the back. Just under 23 seconds for the opening quarter. Take Me to the Beach, sprinting along, leads by a length and a half. Camera wisely backs off that in second. And then it's another length and a half back to Mixologist, who's in hand, moving up, inching up now, only within 3 lengths of the lead. Then Destiny Star along the inside as they come to the half-mile pole. Outside of her, Wrigleyville. Wrigleyville takes fourth and is making a move on the outside as the new leader is Camera. Camera goes right by Take Me to the Beach as Mixologist now moves into second. They're followed by Wrigleyville, fourth, 4 lengths off the lead midway on the far turn. Down at the rail comes Destiny Star through a half in 48 and 2/5 seconds. Grayosh is starting to pass some horses on the far outside. Centuria there too. They're at the top of the stretch and it's wide open. It's Wrigleyville on the outside. In the center of the course, also coming is Proctor Street. Proctor Street from well out of it, and Grayosh. Grayosh takes the lead. Proctor Street is coming swiftly on the outside. Grayosh, Proctor Street on the outside, and Grayosh. These two come for the wire together. Photo finish. Too close to call. Those noses bobbing up and down Proctor Street and Grayosh.
Frank, is so good at that game, but I did think it was the one's nose that got down there right on the line. Far be it for me to make a call when Frank demurred, but it looked to me like the one got the job done. The Brendan Walsh runner we talked about the whole field, but one of the runners we talked about beforehand. Do you agree? You think it's the one?
Yeah, I think it's the one. Yeah, I think it's the one. I'm just annoyed that I didn't
pick the horse.
Did you hear my wife? She said I had the GD exacta because I didn't mute it.
Let's see. Coming back the other way, it's the one. Yeah, it's 1-5.
So it's funny. So I asked. I don't see it here. Anyways, I thought Bob ran against Proctor's Ledge before, so I was excited about that. But
yeah, Proctor Street ran. I mean, this horse ran a big race. I mean, and I mean, Prototypical had done nothing wrong. Certainly, that maiden win was earned with a setup. It was just at Indy, but we see another example of a horse from the Midwest coming in. I mean, it had shown a little bit of finish. It was it was not an easy race. It fell apart late, and Proctor Street looks to have been the best closer. It's certainly an exciting race. Definitely for me, more of a race to watch than to bet. The horse that we spent a lot of time talking about ran okay. I thought really camera proved best of speed, but they just went too quick there, and it knocked things out. Oh, my bartender, who's been on a break, has just come back. So now I can join you in the imbibing of spirits. We've got some fun-looking stuff here. I'm not going to name any brands because we do have a corporate relationship on this show, but I'm going to be enjoying some whiskey that will make me think of our friends at Maker's Mark, who are Breeders' Cup sponsors.
I'm annoyed. If this horse is in here with like a more, I know that let me stay with me a little bit. If this horse is in here with like a less interesting group of like Camera, Grayosh, Wrigleyville, right? Like I picked Wrigleyville that day, and obviously I'm a huge fan of Craig Bernick and Glen Hill Farm. Like if this horse was in just a group of horses that other horses that weren't pulling at my heartstrings, I'm involved here. I just couldn't get there.
We got people watching from all over the world, including Japan. Thank you for chiming in the comments. Yeah, let us know where you are. And
I want to say this real quick. I texted Brendan Walsh this morning, and I said Proctor, and he goes, but she's like, I'm hoping she gets in the money, but she's like her mom. She's improving. And I said, I loved her mom. And he goes, I know, she has a similar profile. Saves it all for the racetrack. He sure did.
That was amazing. 17-1. We were talking before that idea, getting back to maiden races. I really think I completely agree with everything you're saying about you want to know the info. You take notes, you can use it. It's not useless, but the idea that these races are just a benefit for insiders, I really think is misguided. I think there's a lot of ways you can get angles on these races, whether it's watching the workouts, doing the deep dives into pedigree, looking at trainer patterns. There's so much more to it than just that word. And that word so often, especially to meet like Saratoga, gets captured in the betting signal. So what do you say to people who say, oh, I don't bet maiden races, they're just a benefit for insiders?
That's stupid. It's not true though. It's because, I mean, honestly, like I think that info can screw up the market to make inefficiencies more than a formful race. Like, I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, look at the Camera race last year where she was such a huge favorite. It creates inefficiencies. So no, I mean, I think people that have any steadfast rules in this game where there's 12, four-legged animals running in a half a circle. That's why the game's so great. I don't give a dang what you think's going to happen. And I've lost races that I thought there was no way I'm losing. And in fact, like this weekend, I'm going to pick Candied, and I think part of my game on the Fox show to relate it to the common folk is to say that at this place, at this racetrack and racetracks across the world, American Pharaoh got beat. So if American Pharaoh can get beat, then torpedo and it can get beat. You know what I'm saying? Like it's what makes it so much fun.
We look like we have a real chance for a pick six carryover. Just two of the numbers look like they would connect. So the show we posted this morning for Friday, Saratoga, could potentially be a pick six carryover show. We'll see how it plays out here in about 25 minutes time. We've got one more pre-tape, and I've got other folks, JK, who are going to jump on. I'm going to let you enjoy some family time.
Say bye to the team.
Definitely. We will see everybody. Good to see everybody. Make them in focus and blur yourself. That would be better.
Okay, hold on. Okay, I'll do it. Hold on. Yeah, Austin's got on a good shirt. I own this shirt, so hold on. Here we go. All right, now we're good. Here we go.
Excellent. Bye, guys. We'll see you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day in the 1863, and we will be back with you, Jonathan, as soon as tomorrow morning. Text me a time that works.
That Marshall's horse. Love you. Bye.
Big push from JK, who we'll see very soon on Marshall's horse here in the last. So where does that leave us? I think what we're going to do, producer Craig, let's do the leaderboard quick, and then we'll go to our last pre-tape, because we do have a bit of a shakeup, as you'll see, with all folks that had that one runner at the top now. Max Schnepp, Stephen Meyer, John Marino, Julie LeBoyko making a big push. Chris Littlemore, former NHC champion. Mark Stovall, Todd Van Dree hanging in there in 7th. Jeff Van Dree in 8th. William Blake Jr., who may be our buddy Billy Blake, I think, though I've never seen him listed as a junior on a leaderboard, and I don't think he has a son. Anyway, if that's you, Billy, thanks for playing. Stephen McNatten, Jason Batts, David Browning, our original champion for HorsePlayers Happy Hour. Good to see him getting up in there. Stephen McNatten, Jim Herron, Brad Anderson, and Keith Van Lanen. I will shout out Tyler Hoffman, too, in 17th, just because he is another one of our BCBC Diaries players. Encourage you to check out BCBC Diaries. That's a show you can find on the Breeders' Cup social media as well. I think I finally found my footing with that format. I mean, I like the first few shows, but the last one, I think we're really getting into something cool. We're covering BCBC qualifying, basically, largely through the lens of our three key players, but bringing in other great stories as well, including Matt Bernier this week. But we've got the Haskell winning you're in action coming up on Saturday. Had a chance a little bit earlier today to catch up with Brian Skirka from Monmouth Park. It's Haskell Week, signature race of the Monmouth meeting, and one of the people we always pull in to talk about big things happening down at the Jersey Shore from Monmouth Park, Brian Skirka. Brian, how are things? What are the vibes like down there?
The vibes are spectacular. This is my favorite week of the year, leading up to my favorite day of the year. So it's all go, and it's super exciting. We had the draw yesterday or Wednesday, depending on when people are seeing this. But it's super exciting. The weather looks absolutely phenomenal, which is a big kind of phew. And yeah, fingers crossed the forecast stays. But no rain in the forecast. Temperatures seem relatively moderate for summer, so we don't have to worry about any blistering heat. Knock on wood. So we're all go.
You've had some interesting experiences with weather in your time at Monmouth. I think back to your earliest days and the hideous luck you guys got with that Breeders' Cup back then. And what's the old saying that weather has a way of making racetrack executives look pretty smart?
Yeah, that was my intern year, the Breeders' Cup. We got awfully wet. We've had plenty of heat, but knock on wood, this weekend looks absolutely spectacular.
Oh, man, once I figure out this being multiple places at once thing, we're really going to be sad. I'm out here in Del Mar, have some work to do out here opening weekend. It pains me that this is now a conflict with Haskell weekend. It didn't used to be, but the way that the racing calendar has evolved, I wish I were there with you. We'll come up with some other excuses to get down there at the Jersey Shore. Let's pivot to the contest. We have a lot of people listening and watching who know about this already, but I want to underline to them just how fabulous of a prize package you put together last year. One of the main things we've been talking about is BCBC qualifying, and this is going to be a pretty interesting opportunity for people to do just that. Give us the lowdown on this year's Haskell contest.
Sure. So it's $1,000 buy-in. It is this Saturday, obviously, to tie into Haskell Day. It's Monmouth races only. So we'll have 14 races on Saturday. The card is already drawn. It's a phenomenal looking card, which we'll get into, I'm sure, later. But Monmouth races only, and it's an online only contest. Typically, we allow on-site play just because of the logistics of Haskell Day. That's pretty impossible here. So online only. You can play through TVG, 4NJ Bets, which is the New Jersey wing of TVG, Express Bet, and then if you're in Canada, you can play HPI as well. So for people, anyone other than people playing Express Bet, you have to be pre-registered by Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. If you're a Canadian and playing Express Bet, you do that through Klaus Ebner up at Woodbine. If you're TVG, you do that through me. And then if you're an Express Bet player, you can either sign up through me, or you can sign up directly on ExpressBet up until post time for race 1 on Saturday, which is noon Eastern. The prize pool, as you mentioned, is pending final number of players. But last year we had 265 players. That led to a prize pool of 8 BCBC seats, 2 NHC seats, and about $30,000 in cash. So I would hope we're at that number at the worst, and hopefully a little bit more than that based on what we've seen so far. This is our big BCBC qualifier because of the tie-in with the Haskell being a win-and-you're-in race for the Breeders' Cup Classic. We kind of focus on BCBC seats for this. So we'll have the 2 NHC seats. Those are guaranteed. We'll have the tour points as a result. But the number of BCBC seats will go up pending how many players we have. Again, last year was 8. And we'll give away as many as possible, pending total entries.
Production meeting in the middle of the show here. I've been doing this BCBC Diaries show throughout the past month. And one of the things I really want to focus on is shining a light. We talked on last week's show about this contest and how it was coming up and what a great opportunity it was. Coming out of it, I'd love to feature, at least by name checking and maybe talking to one or two of the people who punched their tickets for the BCBC out of this event, because you know it really is one of the biggest events of the year in terms of BCBC qualifying. So I want to make sure we give it its due. So I'll be in touch with you after the contest to get that list of names and maybe bug you for some contact info if that works.
That would be great. Absolutely.
Yeah, usually the contest players love being celebrated after the fact. The possible exceptions being if there's outstanding warrants or money owed somewhere, but that's very infrequent. Very infrequent.
Let's hope that's not the case in this scenario.
Horse players usually much more above board than that. Let's talk about this fantastic racing. We're going to have many other segments on this show where we're talking to folks about their picks for this year's Haskell. From you, Brian, I want more of an overview of the field. I guess the biggest question is, what do we think the odds are that both Mike Rapoli runners will participate in this spot, Mind Frame and Fierceness, or does it seem more likely one will go here, one will wait a week? What's the word on the street at Monmouth Park?
Well, the word on the street is the same rumors that I'm sure you've seen and everyone has seen. I have no inside information, but the intel that I've seen basically is Mike Rapoli. It's his decision, and it's leaning toward probably one or the other, just from what I've seen. He certainly can choose to run both, but he owns obviously all of Fierceness and half of Mind Frame. So Todd Pletcher said on phone on our Haskell press conference yesterday that he doesn't really like running 2 horses against each other. There's another option. Obviously, he can run 1 week later in the Jim Dandy. But the trouble part, according to Pletcher, which makes sense, is the Haskell's a grade 1 and the Jim Dandy is a grade 2. So in a year where 3-year-old championship is completely wide open at this point, a grade 1 win in the Haskell is a pretty big chip. But that'll be Mike Rapoli's decision. We certainly would absolutely love to have both of them here. Fierceness is a grade 1 winner. Mind Frame second last out in a grade 1 and looks to be a future grade 1 winner with his talent. So we certainly would love to have both of them, but whoever shows up that day will face Dornock and Tuscan Sky, the winner of the Naira Bets Pegasus here last out. And as always, it'll be a phenomenal race.
Yeah, I didn't want to give short shrift to Dornock, a horse who's a classic winner in his own regard, won the big graded stake at 2 in the form of the Remsen. And I don't know, seems like a horse for whom Monmouth might suit his front running style. I'm probably going to side against him. I think he had a lot of good fortune in the Belmont, not least of which Mindframe taking the right turn in the lane when I thought that he had dead aim, but certainly great. You got to feel good about having another classic winner in the bunch.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you can get a Triple Crown race winner, it just adds to the excitement level. You know, the casual person knows these horses from watching the Triple Crown races, to be able to say that the horse that won the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga is coming to Monmouth. He has had a race over the track. He ran second in the Sapling last year as a maiden.
Right.
And it was an interesting point that they brought up yesterday at the press conference. He certainly is bred to run well in the Haskell. His sire, Good Magic, is a Haskell winner, and he's a full sibling to Mage, last year's Kentucky Derby winner, who ran a good second in last year's Haskell. So he certainly is bred to run well in our feature race. The one thing I do want to point out, Pete, because I've heard a couple of people say this along the way as well, is I would advise people definitely to pay attention to our races on Friday and early Saturday for how the track is playing. I've seen a lot of people made the same comment that you have, and rightfully so, that the track should suit Dornoch. It's said for fierceness, the same thing, because it's historically a speed favoring track. In the last few years, that has been the case less and less. Like the first half of our meet, it was literally a closer's track. It has changed recently, but it certainly is not the just close your eyes, bet speed in every race like maybe it was 10 or 15 years ago. Like I said, the first half of this year, if you weren't off the rail and closing from the back, you did not win. That has changed a little bit recently, but just don't blindly assume that it's a speed favoring track. Watch the races Friday and early Saturday.
For sure. It's looked, I would say the races I've seen recently seem more like that typical modern track profile where being forward is somewhat of an advantage. The rail, I'm not sure about being exactly on the rail, but being forwardly placed, it just seems like it's been playing fair. That was odd, that sort of synthetic-like pattern that developed for a couple of weeks there early in the meet. But, tracks are weird, but weather, maintenance, there's so much that goes into it. You're absolutely right. You got to just pay attention and try to figure out what's going on. That's the best way to stay in tune with everything going on. We only have about a minute left, Brian, but I don't want to give short shrift to the rest of this card. If you want to give us a little bit of an overview on any special wagers or just a little bit of info about the other stakes racing beyond the big race.
Yep, 6 total stakes races highlighted by the Naira Bets Haskell, of course, but there's 5 total graded stakes. Then there's 1 listed stakes race, the Wolf Hill 5.5 on the turf, which is a phenomenal race. Idiomatic, the reigning champion female horse from last year, highlights the undercard. She runs in race 6, I believe, might be race 5, but race 5 or 6, she runs in the Molly Pitcher on dirt. Idiomatic. The United Nations, which is a grade 2, 1 mile and 3/8 on turf, is the race right before the Haskell. That is an absolute battle of all time, 12 full field of 12 in that race. That is a phenomenal race. The Haskell ends a $500,000 guaranteed all stakes 50-cent pick 4, which is races 9 through 12, ending in the Haskell. And then the last 5 races of the day is a $300,000 guaranteed 50-cent pick 5. That includes the UN, Haskell, and the 2 races after the Haskell, of course. So phenomenal betting opportunities, whether you're in the contest, not in the contest, guaranteed pools. The card, like I said, the fields were drawn yesterday. It's a fantastic card with perfect weather. There's no reason not to check out the card on Saturday.
And make sure to get involved in the contest as well. Brian, great having you. We look forward to speaking with you soon and wish you a wonderful day out there on Saturday. I'll be watching from afar.
Perfect. Enjoy Del Mar. Thank you for having me as always.
Always great to have Brian on these airwaves. He does such a good job down there at Monmouth taking care of tournament players. Speaking of tournament players and horse players, we've got a couple of them in the green room. Let's bring them in now. This man was wearing a tuxedo earlier in the day, but he changed, and he's now in his HorsePlayers Happy Hour uniform. He's Matt Miller. I think he just sold 3 books while I gave him his intro. How are you, Matt?
What's the tuxedo reference? I was at the dentist. I was getting my you-know-what kicked for a couple hours.
I was just making fun of your wardrobe. That's all. Suggesting that you specially put it on for us. And we're also going to bring in a man who's been active in these HorsePlayers Happy Hour games. He's also been very active on our coverage, developing some nice chemistry with my my co-host Mike Probozzi. Been really enjoying the stuff he's been doing with him. He's also done a great job with us with trip notes over the years, especially on our inthemoneypodcast.com/plus side. He is Justin Christein. Justin, how are things?
Hi, Pete. I'm great. Matt, good to meet you. I just finished your book actually last week, and it was awesome. Compliments of Pete. So a job well done. It was well worth the time I spent reading it.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's I'm hearing good things around you. I don't know if were you watching earlier in the show, Matt, when completely unsolicited Matt Bernier plugged the book too, where like it's this thing's taking on a life of its own.
It feels amazing. I'll go back and watch it.
Definitely.
See it. That feels great. Thank you.
It'll actually be in the piece that's on BCBC Diary. So you are always welcome to come back and watch these Horse Players Happy Hours shows. Most fun, though, is when you can join us live. It's going to be for the rest of the summer anyway, Thursdays from 5 to 7. I'm going to try to get the whole contest I'm going to try to do 4 from Del Mar, 4 from Saratoga, and see if we can do the whole thing. It'll mean being on air a little bit longer, but I mean, hey, that's a feature, not a bug. But Justin, what is your history in the BCBC? Is it an event you've played in before? Is it on your radar as a goal? How would you describe your relationship to the event?
It's definitely on my list as a goal. I only started playing tournaments seriously a couple years ago. So I've been trying to win my way in mostly with small feeders. It's certainly a bucket list thing for me. It's not at the top of my list because of how expensive it is to just buy in. So,
right.
That's why I said to you recently, these Horse Player Happy Hour tournaments are just great because like you've advertised, there are so many 3-4 different ways to try to qualify for this. And for someone like me who is playing these feeders and isn't going to put up that entry fee, it's the perfect situation. And the fact that you get, in this case, 10 races to try to earn points or to earn your way into the Saturday tournament. It's just the ideal situation for someone like me.
What do you think about the $2 win place format? Matt's on record as, it's not his favorite. He prefers to be able to have situations where you can control that bankroll. In terms of your handicapping process, you certainly come up with some creative ideas. Does the $2 win place format suit you? Or, if not, is it maybe the kind of thing where you should also be looking into some lower buy-in live bankroll opportunities to win the BCBCC?
Yeah, the latter is probably true because I feel like my play is more suited to taking a few shots. The 2 win place, I think there's certainly a good bit of luck involved there. And like Matt lays out in his book, it's not so much a handicapping contest as it is trying to find those places where you have a horse that you think can win are the right odds, and the majority of the players might not be using that horse. So for me, it's a combination of those 3 things. I'm looking for a horse that's a decent price. I'm looking for a horse that is got a chance to win, but a horse that might be for some reason not used by the majority of people playing it. And so, the $2 win place, I think is, certainly it has its place, but for me, I think a better test of overall handicapping ability and money management ability is the live bankroll tournaments.
Well, it's funny you mentioned, because I'm going to put in I wasn't planning. Actually, I'm going to wait. I have a plug, but I'm going to wait on the plug because it's such a good segue to Matt. Because the phenomenon Justin is talking about, you do talk about extensively in the book, Matt, and I believe the term you use is unclaimed space. Another way of looking at it in these mythical events is the most and we were joking about this before with the horse that just won at Saratoga when the dam won, and it was sort of the opposite idea. Like the horse was 20-1 on the board, I joked 3-1 in the room. When everyone has the points, they're less valuable. The most valuable points, the ones that no one else has, however you want to get them. And granted, you have some eccentric ways of getting them. One could, use things related to traditional handicapping to try to find them. But I mean, are we characterizing your view on these events correctly in terms of what you think it takes to win?
You are, but I'm gonna play the role of political debater and just totally dodge the question and answer a different one. I want to go back to what Justin said 2 minutes ago. So create your own feeder. Win your way in. What if you took cash on a given weekend and just said, okay, and whatever that amount is for you, that's fine. I'm not judging that. But however many units that is in a given weekend, what if you just said, I'm going to try to turn X units into Y units? And if I can do that a couple times, I could buy in for a Breeders' Cup seat, or I could buy half a Breeders' Cup seat with a friend, or I could buy into the 35% as much grade 1 gamble, or I could buy into, pick your event.
Haskell contest this weekend, or First Star Dave coming up. It's $1,000. It's a lot more approachable, and there should be BC seats in the prize pool. You can do this in a scalable way.
Yes, and so I would say at the bottom of that scale, and I don't mean in a negative way, I mean in a really positive way, is Hawthorne, that offers very low dollar tournaments with no entry fees. So heck, if you're playing that amount anyway, it's a no-brainer. As you scale up a little bit, yeah, the entry fees get a bit steep, the amount to the prize pool gets a bit steep. But if you win your way there, I mean, if you set a goal of saying for the first 6 months of the year, gosh, it would be amazing if I could somehow come out of this. And I'm not making fun of anybody. Maybe you're used to losing 10 grand every 6 months. And if you said to yourself, if I only lose 5 grand in this 6 months, I'm going to apply that to a major tournament entry. Yeah, great job. I mean, so you don't have to win your way in. And I would just say, if you can find a way to use regular play to do it, it's just as good.
That's interesting, Justin. Does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, I mean, who knew when I was going to come on here that I was going to get some free coaching advice? It's great, and I'm not saying that in any kind of negative way. It's wonderful advice, and I don't think I'd ever really framed it that way in my mind. But you certainly, Matt, make a really great point, and just setting a goal, whether it be after 2 weeks or a month or 2 months or 6 months. And have an end goal in mind and use your cash play to get to that buy-in tournament that you want. And, I really do think I could be successful in these, live money tournaments. I guess that after I read your book, I think I've become more intent and more intentional about trying to get into these tournaments, whereas before I just sort of defaulted to the 2-win plays just because they were there and they were convenient and they were easy. But the more I think about it, the more it's just, they're just so random, and I could have a good cash day and, look like a bum at the end of a 2-win plays tournament, So that really is great advice.
Thank you. And those are much harder to win. It's much harder to distinguish yourself. And with the flexibility of a full day of races and all of your tools and different ways of betting, you have so many different ways of getting to your total than you do in those $2 win and place tournaments. Again, there's a time and place for them, but for me,
they're great. They're great at $2 win and place. Awesome for action. You got it. You're a root in every race, and if you're somebody who is allergic to favorites and has creative ways of coming up with horses you like put a lot of money into them. But there are other players who want to pick 3 spots and not worry so much about where on the odds spectrum they are, and you can get in that way. So here's my cheap plug with our new partner, and this will hopefully eventually lead some people to qualify for the BCBC. But we're working with NYRA the rest of this summer. On Sundays, we're going to have games over at contestjockey.com where we're awarding an entry into the following Saturday's $300 NYRA live bankroll. So you're starting with 0, And, you got to win. It ain't easy to win a contest. I'm expecting there's going to be 100, 200 people in it. But what's really fun about Contest Jockey is it's live bankroll, but it's fake money. So it also gives you a chance to develop some muscle memory about these live bankroll techniques that you can take forward with you. Essentially, you pick one horse to win in every race. The bankroll, the minimum bets go up throughout the course of the tournament. Think blinds in a poker tournament. Part of this, we're clearly trying to ape No Limit Hold'em here, not least in the way that we want a format for contests that's televisable, which we should have a good episode of the Invitational we shot last weekend that awarded a 4-star Dave seat. But anyway, we're going to keep these going. Sundays, they're free to play. You can win that $300 entry. And I think both of you guys should participate because, heck, it's free. I mean, obviously, your odds are going to go way, 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 way up if you sit there and manage the contest and, take advantage of the fact that you can go all in at any time. But, heck, for a free roll, even if you just put in your minimums and play long shots and hope for the best, it could be something that you get some fun out of and great way to get action. I want to see a lot of people from here. I want the winner of that to tell me, hey, I heard about this on the HorsePlayers Happy Hour tour, and that's why I decided to play. Have I sold you guys?
Yes. How do you get there again, Pete? Where do we find those tournaments?
I'm so glad you asked. ContestJockey.com. You can sign up to an account for free. You'll get emails about all the games. And yes, Sundays for the rest of the summer, we're going to be having them. We're loading here at Saratoga. I have lazily, but also because the horse looks very live on paper, bet the Marshall horse, the 3-runner. You guys have any bets here? Anything cooking?
I violated a major rule, and after JK said Marshall liked this horse, I bet the absolute living daylights out of it.
Yeah. I love it.
Justin, how about you?
I like the 4. I think he had a couple of trips back a while ago, and I loved the work that I saw from XBTV. I thought he looked great.
Great. All right, let's go to Frank with the call. We'll keep you guys around till the end. We'll do the final leaderboard, and then we'll dance from there because there's like 100 breweries in this town, and I've only been to like 66 of them. So we've got work to be done.
Going in. They're in the gate. And they're off. Tom's Chicken Fingers was off slowly. Even among the rest of them.
Come on, Marshall.
Albedo is up.
Yeah, you gotta get this horse. Wasn't the best break.
Now comes through to take the lead. Senegal is flashing.
My friends' horses take on their names.
Second, hard ridden to stay up there, along with very.
Not there easy enough. I didn't love the break though. That could tell late.
Is in the mix too. Just dropping out of that there is Albedo. Braca racing outside of that rival. And it's a pretty big gap to Tom's Chicken Fingers. And In My Shadow is far behind. Around the far turn, Hey Toby leads the way. Pressed by Very Stormy on the outside.
Come on, Toby.
Another 2 back to Senegal.
Horse is second is running, man.
Albedo is down at the rail there at the top of the stretch. Very Stormy's
white. Swamped or can we cut and go?
They'll come for the 8th pole together. Hey Toby on the inside. And Very Stormy stride for stride, shoulder to shoulder, 4 lengths back. Braca, Tom's Chicken Fingers, who was so far back trying to get a minor piece. Hey Toby, resilient on the inside, trying to turn away. Very Stormy will. Hey Toby, win the nightcap. Stormy was
I love it. I love it.
Finger was 4th.
I mean, that horse was loaded. Looked beat at least twice to me, but just kept finding. And I mean, that's been the story of the Saratoga track too to me. I mean, I feel like a lot of tracks in recent history that when you're down, when you're like on the rail, it's not like the old days where you would see horses fine from there. But this track is fair, or maybe even the inside is worth the geometry. And Hey Toby used it to good effect there, just holding off that 8-runner in the spot. And we'll see what that does to our HorsePlayers Happy Hour leaderboard. But hey, a couple of bucks anyway. That'll pay for a few rounds at Pure Project, which is my next stop.
Yeah, this covers next week's trip. I don't know how the horse didn't open at 1-9. It's an investigation. I'm telling you.
What are you referring to? Had you heard more than this idle tip? I mean, the horse made a lot of sense on paper, dropping, having shown speed. But what did you like? I mean, we're red boarding now, but what did you love about this one?
It's just, I don't know anything about the horse. It's just worlds colliding.
Yeah.
You know, I have a policy. I just don't bet friends' horses. There's so little mileage to be had in it. And they always seem to really like their horses. I'm so happy for them when they win anyway. It also really pisses me off when they're happy that their horse got second and I'm furious that it didn't win. So I just want to stay away from it. But yet, when a horse that I didn't even know was entered is mentioned by a different friend and someone texts me and says, hey, JK likes Marshall's, like, okay.
There was a convergence. Well, what's interesting to me is that you don't bet your friends' horses, but you will bet hunch plays. So reconcile that for me.
It's all about how I'm going to feel afterwards. It's really well thought out. I don't mind losing on a hunch play. My hunch was wrong. I do mind the repeatable offense of listening to people that are hyping their horses and getting sucked into the energy of that. And it just feels stupid. And I just know, even when the horse wins, winning the money doesn't add that much. And when it loses, it subtracts a lot. So
that's interesting. So you're happy enough. You feel like you have enough on in the emotional income of getting to see your friends win.
Ask Howard Kravitz what I did after Certified Lover Boy won at Saratoga last year.
Stories in the book. Stories in the book.
I went bonkers. It was the most fun ever. I didn't have $1 on it.
Oh, that's so fun. That's really, really fun. We're going to have to pull up. We don't often do this, Craig, but we'll pull up the winner's circle. I want to see, we got to have a look at Marshall in there. We have to see how he dressed for his winner's circle picture. Oh, there it is. Let's see who we got. There he is in the background. Oh, he's just in his typical attire. It's not like he busted out the tuxedo. That was a nice effort for this runner. Well, we almost missed it completely, but there we go. Good victory scenes for our friends in the purple and black. Hey, Toby returning $5 in that one. Let's look at that final leaderboard, and then I'll let these guys get on with their evening and do the same. Max ends up holding on for that top spot. Julie Leboyko, that was some great play there, edging up with the place points from the 8 into second. Those two, by finishing in the exacta this week, have the opportunity to compete in our 80-runner tournament for a BC seat at the end of the season. One of the things I love about this tour, guys, is it's not oh my God, you have to play every week to participate in the prize pool. Yes, you have a much better chance of winning competing more often, but you can pop in for 1 week and punch your ticket to the finals. Stephen Meyer in third, John Marino, Stephen McNatton, Chris Littlemore, former NHC champ, Mark Stovall, William Blake Jr., who I have to find out if that's Billy Blake, who used to hang out with us at Saratoga and in the Eddie Logan suite. Got to figure it out if that's the same guy. Todd, we got the Van Dries, who you would think were related, but they spell the name, that space in the middle. That could be a technical error, or that could be these guys are not related. Todd and Jeff, I think they're related. I think I've met them both. Jim Herron, Stephen McNatton, Jason Batts, David Browning, former World Horse Player Tour champ, Brad Anderson getting up in there with those place points from the 8, Matt's buddy, and a former BC champion, Daniel Edwards, rounding things out. Tyler Hoffman, unlucky, just missing there in 17th, but I think he'll probably get some breakage for his effort. Justin, Matt, thank you guys so much for being here. Justin, did you get pressed into service to do some In the Money Plus stuff this weekend by our friend? And you have to clarify this for me, because I thought people from Eastern Pennsylvania and Western Pennsylvania didn't get along. You guys clearly putting the lie to that.
Listen, only in the fall when the Steelers and Eagles are playing. Other than that, we're Pennsyltonians through and through. Yeah, I'm doing a show with Mike for the middle pick 5 at Saratoga for Saturday, and then we're going to do the pick 6 for Sunday. One of those is a free show, and the other one is for subscribers.
Yeah, Sunday will be free. That middle pick 5 will be for people who subscribe. In the Money Plus, well worth the money. InTheMoneyPodcast.com/plus. One of the original In the Money Plus subscribers, Matt Miller, who's helped that winning total of original Plus subscribers. What they've done, the close to 5 million, I think y'all have won at the BCBC. You're responsible for a large part of that. Or what is your racing situation this weekend? Are you playing in this big BCBC qualifier at Monmouth?
Monmouth tournament for sure. It looks terrific. And funny, I'll have Howard Kravitz sitting next to me. It's nice to have a horse player friend local. I'll rip on Brad and yell at him again for leaving. Same with Drew, and same with Kyle for that matter. So it's nice to have one left. But yeah, that tournament looks great. I haven't looked too much at the races yet. That shouldn't be a big surprise. I think Naira Bets has one of those smaller cash tournaments as well. Those are always fun. So yeah, I'll definitely be playing, but nothing. I don't have any big, huge picks or any plays that I'm targeting at this point.
All right. Well, we're going to have you both back on soon. This was so fun. Great opportunity to get to chat with both of you on this HorsePlayers Happy Hour show. We encourage people to join us next week. $20 to play. Next week, we're going to do a lineup with Del Mar and Saratoga, assuming the races, shake out okay. What you got, Matt?
Justin, I'm happy to talk anytime, by the way. And that goes for anyone buying this book. DM me, whatever. I'm happy to chat. So
I appreciate that offer, Matt, and I will take you up on that, because what you said makes a lot of sense, and I have other questions that I'll reach out to you about, if that's okay.
Please do. I'm happy to.
Cool.
I had somebody who's a good friend, a very successful contest player, actually, Dan Slattery, reach out to me the other day, Matt, about wanting to obtain copies of the book while he's in Saratoga. He happens to be in Saratoga when you are. I said, I'll do better than that. I'll sell you the books, but we'll if you want to hang out, you and Matt would get along
all day.
Yeah. Sure. So we'll put this, this is my friend Bernie Corbett coined this, and I steal it all the time. One of the fun things about being in the sort of sporting space and being a bit of a connector, you introduce the wrong people to the wrong people and you see what happens. So that's what we're going to do next weekend up here in Saratoga. Thanks so much to all of today's guests. There was Brian, there was Matt Bernier, there was JK, there was Justin, there was Matt, producer Craig doing a fantastic job manning the controls, pushing all the right buttons for this whole thing. Thanks to everybody for joining us, commenting, playing. This show's been a production of the Breeders' Cup and In the Money Media. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your photos.